when a little girl asked, "Are you my new daddy?" I never expected the CEO would. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It started like any other Monday. The air was thick and heavy with the scent of brewing coffee, my heart racing as I braced myself for the onslaught of the workweek. But this day held secrets, dark shadows hovering just outside the doorway of my soul. That office was a prison, the walls closing in on me. I stared at the sharp suits moving stiffly through the glass corridors, their rubbery smiles chilling against my skin. I was drowning, pulled under by a current of expectations and deadlines. I had a family once. Laughter echoed in the hallways of my mind, my daughter's voice dancing like sunlight. Little Ellie. She deserved so much more. But she was gone now. My heart tightened as I remembered the vacant chair at the dinner table, her toys in a pile, collecting dust. I worked long nights, weekends, sacrificing my life for this soulless corporation. I could almost hear her soft giggles fading into the background. And then, there she was, a spark of innocence amid the cold chaos. With curious, wide eyes and tangled hair that glowed like spun gold, she rocked back and forth on her heels, her blue dress flickering like a soft flame. She was too young to share in my burdens, yet old enough to see the weight on my shoulders. When she asked me that question, my heart stopped. "Are you my new daddy?" What kind of world is this, where an innocent child wanders into a corporate jungle and opens wounds I thought were healed? The murmurs from the passing executives almost drowned me, a collective gasp flowing through the air. The silence that followed was deafening. They watched with eyes sharpened by judgment, each glare a knife cutting deeper. The CEO, a man known for power and ruthless decisions, stood beside me. His presence was like ice coursing through my veins. Did he know? I could feel the tension crackling around us, the unspoken desire to bury the truth, to hide the gnarled reality of my life. But the girl stood firm, her little hand clutching a worn teddy bear. In that moment, I felt everything shift. What happened next shattered the fragile grip I had on my life. He bent down to her level, a surprising warmth in his cold demeanor. "I might be your new daddy, sweetheart." The words slithered out like venom, thickening the air with a sense of foreboding. I froze. How dare he? Yet, a part of me was captivated by the proposition. Was this my chance? Could I, in some twisted fate, reclaim what I'd lost? The laughter in my heart warred against the icy shards of reality. I wanted to scream, to run far away from this confusing mess of hope and despair. I felt the tears prickling at the corners of my eyes. And just when I thought I could find a way out, the little girl tugged at my sleeve, her voice barely a whisper. "Will you really be my daddy?" Each word pierced through the air, heavy with expectation. I was trapped. My heart pounded in my chest, and the world around me faded. The walls felt like they were closing in, and I was left hanging on the edge of the abyss, drowning in questions that had no answers. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The silence in that high-rise office swallowed me whole. I regarded the little girl with a mixture of longing and despair, her innocence radiating warmth in a place where hearts were meant to be encased in ice. "Will you really be my daddy?" was a question that ignited 1,000 regrets in my mind, but also flickered with the faintest glimmer of hope. The weight of the moment bore down on me, suffocating yet electrifying. I thought of Ellie again, her bright smile lighting up the darkest corners of my existence. Perhaps this child, this beautiful sparrow standing before me, could distract me from the relentless hurt, could fill the gaping hole left behind. But even as the possibility of connection sparked within me, a heavy truth loomed. I was not ready to let anyone in, not even her. I felt the CEO's steely gaze on me, probing, assessing. "Perhaps it would be good for both of you," he suggested, his voice smooth but laced with an undercurrent of danger. I didn't trust him. There was something unsettling about his quick willingness to embrace the child, as if she were nothing more than a pawn in some calculated game. Can I take you home? I asked, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. The little girl nodded eagerly, and for a fleeting moment, the tumult of emotions coiled tightly within me melted away. Maybe I could be what this child needed, someone to care for her as I had failed to do for my own. The thought made me shudder as it lingered, sweet yet agonizing. Just then, my phone vibrated in my pocket. A notification popped up, a reminder about the anniversary of my daughter's death. It felt like the universe had conspired against me. The bitter taste of regret swirled in my mouth as I fought back tears. How could I be a father to another child when I had failed mine? This constant reminder of loss was like a shard of glass within my chest, and it seemed the world around me shifted in sympathy for my plight. Hey, are you all right? The little girl asked, her small fingers reaching up to touch my arm delicately, as if trying to brush away my turmoil, that I wanted to tell her that everything was fine, but the truth formed in my throat like a chokehold. How could I justify my pain to her? I'm just a little sad, sweetheart, I replied, forcing a smile. My mommy says sad is okay, she said, her voice brightened by an unexpected wisdom. As long as you can be happy too. Her words, innocent yet profound, resonated deeply within me. Maybe I could learn from her. Perhaps there was a way to find light within the darkness, a chance to rebuild somehow. But just then, a shadow passed over her face as she glanced back toward the CEO, her expression shifting from light to apprehension. Mr. Martin, do you want to come with us? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The CEO straightened up, a wicked smile playing on his lips. I'm afraid that my schedule is too tight, little one. But I will be watching you both. As he spoke, an unease crawled over my skin. What did he mean by that? Was this a game to him? Next to me, the child's demeanor brightened anew, blissfully unaware of the undercurrents spinning around us. It tugged at my heart. The chasm of innocence and the grim reality of adulthood felt insurmountable. Maybe this was the beginning of something new. The thought arrived with its own weight, a sweet both grateful and terrifying. We strolled out of the office, my mind a whirlwind, the little girl beside me filled with unshakable faith. She skipped, her teddy bear bouncing in rhythm with her joyful steps, reminding me that perhaps life could still hold beauty. But as we descended the stairwell, the air thickened again around my heart. I could feel the CEO's watchful presence lurking just beyond the glass door, declaring war on this fragile hope I was nurturing. What if he was not just a distant supervisor, but a looming threat? A darkness lurking in the guise of an ally, ready to claim both the child and my shattered spirit. The last step echoed beneath us as we emerged into the world outside, the vibrant sun shining on the concrete jungle, illuminating my guilt and fear. But it also ignited a spark of rebellion. Somewhere, though, I felt the warmth of a new, fragile bond unfurling, a fluttering of a fresh beginning interwoven with uncertainty. Then it happened. A sharp gasp erupted from my mouth as a sudden and shocking revelation crashed into my conscious mind. My phone, still buzzing in the depths of my pocket. A missed call. I pulled it out, processing the familiar number. My breath caught as the implications twisted in my gut. It was a call from my past, someone I had long since buried in another life, someone who could unravel everything. What had I done? Had I truly just stepped into the shadows of a new life? Or was I merely running toward a greater doom? I stood frozen in place, that old number glowing ominously on my screen. The world around me faded into a blur. The vibrant sun, the hopeful chatter of people around us, and the little girl's innocent laughter became muffled, distant sounds enveloped by a smothering fog of fear. It felt absurd to fear a call from someone I thought I had silenced long ago. Or had I? Who was it? The little girl asked, snapping me back to the present, her eyes wide with curiosity. Uncertainty twisted in my stomach. Did I want to drag her into the darkness that threatened to swallow me whole? Just a friend from a long time ago, I said, forcing cheerfulness into my voice. It was easier to paint the truth with light than to let her see the murky depths below my calm facade. But her innocent gaze bore into me, and I couldn't shake the feeling that this fragile connection we were forming rested precariously at the edge of a yawning chasm. As we walked, I fought the growing heaviness that accompanied the thought of answering that call. Would I sabotage not only my chance of healing, but her trust? I glanced over at her, skipping alongside me so effortlessly, her joy unmarred by the jagged reminders of my past. "What's your name?" I asked, looking to distract myself and her. "Lily," she chirped, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "I want to be a doctor when I grow up. I'm going to help people, just like they help me." Her enthusiasm was infectious, momentarily displacing the weight on my heart. "That's amazing, Lily. You'll be the best doctor ever." I couldn't help but smile at her dreams, dreams that blossomed as freely as wildflowers in spring. Behind me, my past loomed tall and grotesque, casting shadows over her light. As we made our way through the streets, I found myself drawn to her spirit. "Why do you want to be a doctor?" I asked, genuinely intrigued. "Because my mom gets sick sometimes, and I want to help her because she helps me every day." Her voice wavered as she spoke of her mother, and a flutter of unease curled in my gut. The underlying pain of attachment loomed large a warning of the path I may tread if I let this bond deepen. "Your mom sounds like she's very special," I replied cautiously, glancing away, afraid of the direction this conversation could take. "She is, but she's always tired, and I want her to be happy." A moment of silence stretched between us, the solemnity of her words grounding me. Suddenly, I feared I wouldn't be able to keep up my facade. How could I be someone who could give her happiness when I couldn't even mend my own brokenness? As we arrived at a little park, vibrant with laughter and the rustling of leaves, I felt a pull to stay in this joyful moment, to nestle in a corner of happiness, sheltered from the storm brewing in my life. We settled on a bench, and I watched as she ran towards an elderly woman sitting nearby, her teddy bear clutched tightly in her little arms. "Can I sit with you, please?" I heard her tiny voice offer, the stranger's face lighting up with unexpected warmth as she nodded enthusiastically that I watched as Lily engaged the woman with innocent charm, my heart swelling painfully at the sight. Perhaps in this moment of simple connection, I could find solace as well. But then, my phone vibrated again with a hard thud against my Liga notification. A text message from that number. My heart raced, a cold sweat breaking across my brow. Should I look? A part of me hesitated, the danger of the unknown woven into every tap against the screen. But my curiosity, steeped in dread, propelled me forward. Lifting my phone, I saw the words flash like lightning against a gray sky. "I know where you are. I need to see you, and it's about her." My breath caught, the message pulsating in my chest. What did they mean? Was it about Ellie? Or about Lily? I hurriedly glanced back at the bench, desperate for the comfort of the moment. But my heart sank. The elderly woman was now talking to Lily with an intensity that made my gut twist. I could see the shadows of worry creeping across her little face, an expression I had seen far too often in my own. "Daughter." The old woman had leaned in, whispering something that made Lily blink rapidly, as if she were fighting back tears. "Everything okay?" I called out, my heart in my throat, adrenaline coursing through my veins. The gentle laughter of children running by suddenly felt miles away. Lily looked back at me, her eyes wide and reflecting a storm of confusion. I don't know," she replied, her voice small, the light beginning to dim as the worries in her world seeped into mine. I paced towards them, that text buzzing incessantly in my mind. I realized the threads of my past were finally unraveling, threatening to entangle me and the innocent little girl who had taken her first steps into my heart. Would the shadows that chased me down split us apart before we ever had a chance? Before I could reach them, a dark silhouette appeared at the end of the park path, a presence I recognized all too well. His expression unreadable but utterly menacing. I could feel the chill wash over me as he locked eyes with Lily, and in that moment, the walls I thought I could build to protect her began to crumble. The space between us felt insurmountable, and the shadows deepened. What had I done, stepping into this circus of emotions? And how much longer could I protect her innocence from the harsh realities weaving through my life, like a silken thread of darkness? The world spun on its axis as I stood frozen, a stranger's gaze pinning me in place. The park around us had transformed, the bright colors now dull as panic seeped into my bones. I blinked rapidly, desperately trying to comprehend the danger lurking in the unexpected arrival of the Lily. I began, but the words fell flat as the girl turned to me with an expression I dreaded to see. She was still holding her teddy bear, but the vibrant spark in her eyes had dimmed, replaced with uncertain worry. "Are you okay?" she murmured, innocence clashing violently with the weight of my spiraling thoughts. Suddenly, I felt the suffocating grip of fear over my chest. If he was here, it meant my nightmare was not over, a shiver racing down my spine. The CEO took slow steps toward us, a smile that could barely hide the malice lurking beneath stretching across his face. Well, it seems I found you, he said, his voice smooth yet dripping with a malevolence that set alarms ringing in my mind. And you brought a little friend along. He tilted his head slightly, his eyes narrowing. All I could do was stand there, my heart pounding against my ribcage. I shot a glance at the old woman who had been talking to Lily. She was now sitting stiffly, her expression taut with apprehension, as if sensing the animosity filling the air. "Who's this?" he asked, a twinge of mocking curiosity in his voice. "Your new little project?" My stomach churned. "She's a friend," I managed to stammer, trying to project the protective facade I so desperately needed. "What do you want?" Every syllable felt like a battle against a wave of uncertainty. I couldn't let Lily see me falter, not when the shadows of my past were threatening to engulf us both. The condescending chuckle escaped his lips. "Oh, come now. You know very well it's not just a friendly visit. We have matters to discuss." He took another step closer, his gaze shifting intentionally toward Lily, who was now holding her bear a little tighter, her trust beginning to fray. My heart raced as panic clawed at my insides. "She's just a child. Leave her out of this." "Oh, but the nature of our discussion pertains to her." He leaned down, locking onto Lily's wide, searching eyes. "What's your name, darling?" "Lily," she replied shyly, her small form seemingly shrinking under his oppressive stare. I wanted to shield her, to erase this moment, but my feet felt rooted to the ground. "What a lovely name," he replied, the sweetness of his tone starkly contrasting with the dark thoughts swirling within him. "Did you know your new friend here has quite the interesting life? She's been through some challenges." That I felt a chill at his suggestion, realizing I had drastically underestimated the danger he posed not just to me, but to Lily, who happened to be the innocent bystander in a game I had been trying to escape for years. "Leave her alone," I shouted, the words bursting forth like a dam breaking, fear echoing through the recesses of my mind. People in the park turned to glance at us, whispers erupting in soft murmurs, the once innocent air now thick with tension. In an instant, the humor faded from his face. But it's too late. I think she deserves to know the truth about you." Lily looked between us, confusion clouding her face. "What truth?" Her voice quivered, and hope gripped me momentarily. If I could placate him, perhaps I could shield her from the storm brewing on the horizon. "Sweet girl, you should be careful about who you trust," he warned, turning his captivating gaze back to me, igniting the unspoken threat lingering in the air. "And you, my friend, should understand the consequences of hiding from the past." Panic gripped at my throat as I scanned for an escape route. "We should go, Lily." "It's time to leave," I urged, but my words tore against the thick tension, hung in midair like a fragile thread. Suddenly, my phone buzzed again, a frantic reminder of the text that had taunted me moments before. This time, however, the urgency shattered my racing pulse. "Don't," I breathed, the words escaping as desperation clawed at my throat. "Please, let her go." A sly smile unfurled across his lips. "Lily, have you ever considered how much fun it can be to uncover secrets? Especially when people so desperately wish to keep them hidden." "You're in for quite a surprise." Fear ripped through me like jagged glass, anger boiling in a storm inside as my body surged forward. I needed to protect Lily from the truth that had haunted me, the reality that could threaten to envelop her in shadows if I allowed it. "Get away from her," I shouted, desperation squeezing every ounce of strength I had left. Just as I lunged, a sudden movement caught my peripheral vision. A dark figure from my past, someone I hadn't expected to see. My heart dropped as I processed what this could mean for both Lily and myself. Buried secrets surfacing, risking everything I had just begun to rebuild. In the chaos of spiraling emotions and swirling fears, the moment hung precariously in the air, and in an attempt to protect Lily, I felt every fragmented piece of my life crack further apart, a crumbling mosaic on the edge of an abyss. Would I be able to save her innocence before the storm could swallow us whole? The sound of Lily's innocent voice cut through the mounting tension like a knife, echoing in my mind long after she asked, "Are you my new daddy?" My heart sank as the gravity of the question wrapped around us, pulling me into a spiraling pit of panic. Lily, no? I cried, my voice rising above the chaos surrounding us. I reached for her, but my feet felt like lead, as if the very ground beneath me was attempting to keep me trapped in this dreadful moment. I had no idea how to respond or, worse, how to protect her from what lay ahead. The CEO's gaze snapped to me, a predatory glint dancing in his eyes. How delightful. The little girl thinks you're something other than what you truly are. That's adorable, he mocked, drawing closer, as though savoring the taste of my anguish. But the truth is not so pretty, is it? Stop it, I shouted, my voice trembling, now each word laced with desperation. I could feel the gasps of bystanders around us, their eyes glued to our confrontation, but Lily's innocent inquiry hung in the air, turning my insides into a churning void. She didn't understand. She couldn't possibly know the complexity of my past, the shadows that danced just beyond the edges of my life, waiting to consume anyone who ventured too close. I desperately prayed for a distraction, for something to interrupt this moment before it crumbled further. I love teddy bears, Lily added, her small hands clutching the worn fabric of her friend like a lifeline. Can I have a big bear too? One that hugs you back? The innocence in her voice felt surreal, as if it didn't fit the perilous situation. It radiated a warm light that stood stark against the cold darkness of the CEO's menacing presence. My heart ached at her childish wish, a reminder of the joy she should be living, not the dread that now threatened to envelop her. Enough, the CEO snapped, his voice sharp like glass shattering. Little girls shouldn't speak of things they don't understand. And you should stop pretending to be a protector. I'm not pretending, I shot back, a fierce blaze igniting in my chest. I will protect her, no matter what it takes. Protect her from what? The truth? He said, sneering at me. You're not her hero, dear friend. You're merely a ghost from a past I control. A sudden movement from behind him shifted my focus. A familiar silhouette emerged, and my heart sank further, this time sinking into a realm of utter disbelief. It was Jonathan, the only man who had shared the deepest parts of my life, my confidant, my ally. But what was he doing here? He shouldn't be here. There were things we had agreed to keep buried, things that could ruin us both. Oh, you really think you can save her? Jonathan asked, stepping into view. His presence sent a wave of emotions crashing over me, relief warred with trepidation. He didn't have any idea of the mess that had unfolded since he last saw me. Before I could gather my thoughts, he addressed the CEO. What do you want? His voice was steady, but I could see tension etched across his brow. It felt almost surreal to see him here, ready to enter a battle for both my life and Lily's. The CEO grinned, his demeanor shifting slightly as he assessed Jonathan's arrival. Ah, my ally in the shadows. You should know, we're discussing secrets far older than either of you realize. Jonathan's jaw tightened, and I could see him determining the best course of action. A familiar glance exchanged between us, both of us sharing the weight of unspoken histories. Lily, I started, breath hitching, but before I could warn her about the impending storm, she stepped toward Jonathan, clutching her teddy bear, brow furrowed in confusion. Are you my new daddy? She asked again, this time with a hint of hope, as if innocence were all she knew in a world that felt so menacing. My chest constricted painfully. Jonathan's eyes widened, and for an instant, I saw a flicker of recognition, an echo of what used to be, back when we harbored dreams of family and safety. But that dream had splintered, burying itself beneath the rubble of our respective pasts. No, sweet girl, he finally replied, gently, kneeling to her level. But I know someone who could be. Enough with the games. The CEO's voice lashed out, his right hand slicing air in frustration. She doesn't need a father figure. The only truth she needs is her. Panic surged anew, and I took a step forward without even thinking. You're lying. She deserves a chance. I screamed, the words torn from my heart. But my shout vanished against the growl of darkness that loomed heavily around us. The park seemed to fade, time stretching into a painful eternity as the weights of history, secrets, and fragmented beginnings clashed against the pressing reality we were trapped in. Why don't we see just how deep the truth goes? The CEO taunted, directing his gaze toward Lily, now standing small and vulnerable, yet stubborn in her defiance. The shiver of unease coursed through me. Suddenly, Jonathan's gaze turned serious, urgency flickering in his eyes as he turned back to me. We need to do this together. If there's any chance to protect her, we have to face him head-on. The words ignited something within me, a fragment of hope amidst the rising tide of despair. But there, standing just a breath away from our ultimate confrontation, I felt dread coiling tightly around my heart. What if our past had dark secrets far deeper than either of us remembered? Would facing them bring salvation or forfeit everything we fought to protect? In that pregnant pause, heavy with potential, I could feel the moment teetering perilously on the edge. We were mere steps away from an unfolding revelation that could change our lives and Lilith's forever. Would we have the strength to confront the darkness sealed away in the chambers of our hearts? The moment stretched like an elastic band, the air thick with tension as I stood between the man I once trusted and the monster intent on tearing apart our fragile unity. Jonathan's resolve sparked a flicker of determination in me, yet dread wrapped its fingers around my throat, squeezing tightly. What could we uncover in our shared past that might give the CEO the upper hand? Lily, still clutching her teddy bear as if it were a bulwark against the encroaching darkness, shifted uneasily at the edge of this escalating confrontation. "Can we play a game?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly, but still filled with that innocent hope, the kind that made the world seem a little brighter, a little more manageable. "Not now, sweetheart," I choked out, desperate not to let the shadows infringe upon her childlike wonder. "Teddy and I want to play," she insisted, those wide eyes glued on Jonathan, who knelt before her, a mixture of love and sorrow gleaming in his gaze. Jonathan forced a smile, his brows knit in concentration. "We will, Lily. Just give us a moment, okay?" But the CEO laughed, a cruel sound that pierced the budding warmth in my heart like a thorn. "Keep her deluded," he sneered, "and you might think you've won. But the truth, dear friends, is that illusions fall apart once exposed to bright light." The words hung heavy in the air, a haunting reminder of the reality we faced. Forging ahead, I couldn't afford to let him have the final say. "What do you know about truth?" I spat back, feeling a surge of boldness against the haunting memories of the past we shared. "You're the one who hides behind lies." His eyes sparkled with amusement, twisting the knife deeper as he continued. "Ah, yes. But sometimes, the lies you tell protect the worst truths of all." Jonathan's expression darkened in response, and I could see flashes of hurt swirl behind his usually composed demeanor. "You don't know a thing about us," he barked, frustration flaring. "Is that so?" The CEO leaned closer, an insidious eagerness radiating off him like steam from a kettle. "Then allow me to enlighten you." My heart pounded in my chest as dread washed over me. What would he reveal? What pieces of our past was he prepared to throw back into our faces, those stories we had buried deep in the darkness to protect ourselves? With a sudden flourish, he pulled out a small leather-bound journal from his jacket, tossing it carelessly at our feet. It landed with a dull thud, the pages splayed open invitingly. "There are truths here that neither of you can ever escape. Read and remember." Jonathan moved first, instinctively reaching for the journal. I grasped his arm tightly, fear coursing through me. "Don't do it," I pleaded, afraid of what this encounter could unearth. "I need to know," Jonathan responded quietly, a battle of emotions playing across his features, a testament to the bond we once shared. "Only pain lies within those pages," I cried out, but with one trembling hand on his journal, I felt Jonathan's steadfastness. "There's a reason we buried our past," I whispered, my heart racing against the mounting tension. But Jonathan didn't respond. His gaze remained locked on that journal, drawing him in like a moth to a flame. The urge to protect him battled against the inexplicable need for the truth, a truth that could set us free or doom us to our darkest memories. Lily, sensing the tension, stepped backward, her teddy bear clutched securely to her chest. "But I want to play," she said softly, her innocence palpable but drowned in a swell of adult turmoil. In this moment exacerbated by dread and hope, Jonathan's resolve faltered, and his fingers reluctantly turned the pages, one by one. The air thickened as, with each carefully drawn-out breath, he exposed pieces of our history, tangled and discordant, as if extracting barbed wire from an open wound. "Wait." I gasped, but it was too late. Those secrets, Those shadows we thought we had pacified long ago began surging forth, threatening to unbalance everything we were fighting to keep whole. And then I caught a glimpse of the page he held, a note scrawled in. Familiar handwriting, a name I recognized, but didn't want to acknowledge. My breath came in ragged gasps, the world around me spiraling. No, I whispered in horror, the implications surrounding that name clawing at my heart, ready to unravel everything that had once grounded me. Jonathan froze, his eyes widening in shock at the words laid bare under his fingertips, suddenly finding himself at the center of something too vast to control. Before I could warn him to put it away, the CEO's laughter rang out again, a sinister sound echoing through an unrelenting storm, and an overwhelming realization began to unfurl its dark petals. Someone else had been watching us, hidden in the shadows, all along. What did this man know about us? And how had he orchestrated our lives so methodically? In that moment, as I tried to process the horror that encroached, Lily's small voice broke through the uncertainty yet again, piercing my heart anew. Are you my new daddy? And the world around me faltered as the echoes of our past crashed against the urgency of the present, forcing us all once more to grapple with questions that had haunted us for years. Would we be brave enough to face the truth? Or would we let the shadows dictate our fate? As the CEO grinned wider, revealing secrets that might threaten our very existence, I realized there was no escaping the revelations waiting just beyond the horizon. All I could do was watch as the storm brewed, unrelenting and unyielding, preparing to unleash its fury on the uncertain path ahead. The stifling silence that followed Lily's innocent question hung in the air like a thick fog, wrapping around us and blurring the lines of reality. I felt my heart clench painfully in my chest, entangled in the web of confusion, fear, and an instinctual desperation to shield her from the brewing storm. The CEO's laughter echoed eerily, a sound that wormed its way into my thoughts and twisted the dagger deeper. Do you see what you've done? He directed his mocking tone towards Jonathan, who stood frozen, the weight of the moment striking him like a physical blow. You've brought a little girl into all this chaos. And now, she might just be the key to everything. Jonathan clenched his jaw, his knuckles paling as he gripped the journal tightly, knuckles white against the leather. The indomitable wall he often portrayed began to crumble, revealing the cracks of vulnerability beneath. There was fear in his eyes, dark and tumultuous like a raging sea, and I reached out instinctively, letting my fingers brush against his arm, hoping to anchor him amid the tempest swirling around us. Lily, sweetie, how about we go find a nice place to play? I offered, forcing a shaky smile onto my face, one that felt more like a mask than a display of genuine cheerfulness. My heart ached at the thought of thrusting her away, but the weight of the current situation was suffocating. We needed her safe. I needed her safe. But Lily looked up at me, her eyes reflecting a deep-seated need for stability and understanding, the innocence of childhood in stark contrast with the turmoil enveloping us. But I don't want to leave my daddy, she said, her small voice tinged with concern as she clung to her teddy bear, as if it alone could ward off the shadows. Lily, look at me, I implored, kneeling down to meet her gaze. Your daddy loves you. He's right here. I gestured toward Jonathan, fighting the unsteady tremor in my voice. But we have to take care of something very important, something that adults sometimes need to handle alone. The CEO interjected with a twisted smirk. Such dedication to your beloved. You truly are the epitome of a selfless guardian. Yet, don't you see? The truth buried in that journal could shatter the illusion you've created for her. Jonathan recoiled at the venom behind those words, his face twisted in pain. What did you do? He demanded, his voice low but steady, betraying the storm brewing underneath the surface. It was easy to forget about the real danger beneath this man's sardonic veneer. He dragged our names through muck and mire, wreaking havoc with a mere thought. I felt the urge to keep Lily safe from both him and the ugly truths lurking so close. You don't know anything about us, I shouted, desperation pushing me to take another step forward, even as darkness threatened to engulf us. My dear, the CEO said mockingly, I wouldn't underestimate my knowledge. Secrets have a way of leaking, especially among those who think they've hidden them securely. He paused, savoring his torment, the glimmer of triumph in his eyes illuminating the cruel lengths he would go to dismantle USDS. Jonathan took a step toward the CEO. A flicker of something darker ignited in him, some primal instinct pushed forward by raw emotion. "Just tell me what you want," he said, as if there was a price on the truth, a toll that might save us all. "What I want?" The CEO leaned back, feigning indifference. "How about the satisfaction of watching your family, which you fought so hard to protect, bleed?" My breath caught in my throat at the implications. The concept of losing Jonathan, of being torn from Lily, and of succumbing to the very fears we had worked tirelessly to suppress clawed at my sanity. My heart raced again as the reality of our entanglement unfolded, forcing memories of delicate happiness into stark relief. Jonathan and me, the sharp edges of our imperfections having been softened, yet now they threatened to skim my very soul away. "Forget him, Lily," I urged softly, pressing my palm against her soft cheek, hoping to ignite a flicker of tranquility amidst the chaos. "Just keep holding on to your teddy bear. He'll protect you." I glanced toward Jonathan, his resolute stance shaking under the weight of impending revelations, unable to shield his own transparency without risking the very bond one fought to protect. In that moment, as I looked into Lily's wonder-struck eyes, I saw echoes of the childhood joy I longed to preserve. "You're so brave, aren't you?" I smiled, forcing lightness into my voice, to mask my own crumbling spirit. But Lily shook her head, her expression solemn and wise, far beyond her years. "I'm only brave because my daddy is a hero." Before I could respond, the CEO seized the moment, his voice dripping with disdain. "Ah, the naivete of children is truly remarkable. Your hero is stepping into shadows deeper than you can fathom." He leaned in closer, lowering his voice to a conspiratorial whisper, "And the truth is hell have to decide between you or the life he thought he wanted." I could feel the ground beneath us shifting, the pull of impending revelations swirling into an all-consuming abyss. Unexpectedly, Jonathan turned to face me, desperation swirling in his eyes, and in those stolen moments I saw everything we had sacrificed to build a life that might now be methodically dismantled. "Do you see, love?" Jonathan whispered fiercely, "We must face this together." I went back down, but his declaration felt like a thin thread teetering on the edge of danger. And then, an unfamiliar hesitance washed over me. Could we truly wrestle the truth from the hands of fate? Would we be brave enough to confront the shadows, or would we allow fear to paralyze our path ahead? And just as the shadows loomed larger, drenching the air with tension, a noise echoed in the distancia siren, growing louder and closer. The urgency of reality invaded our bubble of emotional turmoil, heralding an uninvited intrusion. Suddenly, a startling thought crept into my mind. What if help arrived too late? What if, by the time we stood ready to face the unthinkable truths, everything all that we'd fought for slipped through our fingers like sand? The sound of the sirens warning us of impending change reverberated through my core, and the promise of discovery unleashed a different storm of revelation waiting just beyond the door of our tattered past. The fight for our future hung precariously, and I could feel it slipping away as the world around us spiraled deeper into chaos than we never imagined. What would we uncover once the truth was forced exposed? And could love truly transcend the darkness that threatened to engulf us? In that moment, I found myself holding my breath, standing on the precipice, not knowing that the worst was yet to come. The sirens grew closer, slicing through the mounting tension like a blade. I glanced back at Jonathan, who stood rooted to the spot, dread etched into his features. The stark realization washed over me. Time was running out. I felt a surge of urgency so profound that it threatened to drown me in a sea of panic. Lily's eyes, wide with confusion, turned from Jonathan to the direction of the approaching sound. "Are they here to help us?" she asked, her voice reflecting the naive hope only children could muster during moments of peril. I knelt beside her, trying to shield her innocence with all my might. "Yes, sweet girl, they're here to make sure we're safe." My words tasted bitter, a thin veneer over the fears clamping down on my heart. Could they really save us? Or would they uncover the secrets better left buried? Jonathan's gaze flickered toward the door, and for the first time, I noticed the uncertainty lurking within him. "We need to decide quickly," He whispered, as if breaking our fragile bubble might somehow invite disaster. Whether to fight or run. Fight, I echoed, feeling the gravity of that word hang in the air like lead. How could we possibly take on the looming shadows of the past, armed only with hope and the remnants of our clarity? What if fighting means putting Lily at risk? He opened his mouth to respond, but the door burst open before he could find the words. The frame, filled with uniformed officers, faces tense and weary. Get down. Hands where we can see them, one officer shouted, his voice reverberating with an authority that fueled the chaos. The sudden upheaval made Lily squeal in fright, clutching her teddy bear closer, instinctively retreating behind me. I turned to her, my heart rushing as I crouched, my body shielding hers, as if I could become an impenetrable barrier against the storm. Yet, the cavernous ache in my chest only deepened. I was reminded of how fragile this moment felt, teetering on the edge of an abyss we never wanted to acknowledge. Jonathan stepped forward, his stance defensive. Wait, we're not the enemy here. His words were charged with urgency, a plea masked as conviction. The officers stood frozen for just a heartbeat before a second one stepped forward. What's going on? He scanned the room, his eyes darting over to the cell, sitting casually nearby, an infuriating grin plastered across his face. The vile man's nonchalance ignited a slow burn of anger inside Jonathan, but I could feel the weight of the situation pressing down. You need to listen. This is a family matter. We're trying to protect her. Family matter? The officer questioned, uncertainty creeping into his tone as his hand rested on his holstered weapon. You need to be clear. There's a recording we received. A threat made on this child's life. The words hit me like a physical blow, reeling me backward. What? I gasped, feeling every bit of fight leave me as vivid images of catastrophe unfolded in my mind. What kind of threat? Enough to warrant immediate action. The officer gestured to his colleague, who approached with a file and hand, pages evaluated with clean precision. We need to take the child into protective custody for her safety. No, I cried, flipping the torrent of emotions raging within me into a steely resolve. I wouldn't let anything tear her away from Jonathan and me. The thought alone twisted a knife deep in my gut. You can't take her. She needs us. Lily's small hand slipped into mine, her gaze darting helplessly between us and the officers, confusion clouding her innocent eyes. Mommy, she whimpered, her voice cracked with unshed tears. Lily, sweetheart, I'm right here, I soothed, squeezing her tiny hand to anchor both of us. But even as I spoke, I felt the ground beneath me quaking. We will figure this out, I promise. The CEO finally leaned forward, relishing the spectacle that unfolded before him. This can't be good for you, Jonathan. The law has no regard for love when it comes to secrets that shatter families. My heart raced wildly as Jonathan's expression shifted, a mix of fury and resignation. There's more at stake here than just fear, he said, his voice strengthened with a newfound certainty. If they take her, then they'll be doing exactly what he wants. I sensed an unspoken understanding between us. We couldn't afford to let the truth fracture us any further. We can't give in, I said quickly, determination surging like electricity in my veins. We stand together, I declared loudly, raising my chin to the officers. My heart thundered in my ears as I felt the collective energy of hope collide with the crushing weight of despair. The officers exchanged uneasy glances. It became clear that fear begets fear, a cycle that could tear apart the threads keeping us whole. A sudden flash of unexpected kindness sparkled in one officer's gaze. The gentleness reflected, reminding me there were still those willing to stand firm against those who would sow discord. We need to take a minute, assess the situation, the first officer said slowly, his tone softening at the edges. No one is here to hurt you, but we must ensure the child's protection. Can you do that without separating us? Jonathan asked, his voice trembling. I marveled at the desperation mingled with bravery, a glimpse of the man I fell in love with shining through the darkness. Just as the officers began to deliberate, a soft, ethereal voice floated through the air. Lily had turned slightly and whispered, "Daddy, do you promise to always come back to me?" In that fleeting moment, fragile yet resolute, the world around us fell silent. I could feel my heart stutter in my chest, echoing her innocent request, and for the briefest moment, the future stood suspended like a delicate balance, crystalline and uncertain. Jonathan knelt down to her level, desperation lining his eyes as he clutched her hands. Always, my love. I promise. Suddenly, a new voice erupted from the doorframe, commanding and shrill, but unlike the officers, it was warm and familiar. Don't you dare take my daughter away from me. All heads turned, shock blasting through the room. A woman entered, eyes wild and fierce, and in that heartbeat of disbelief, a different storm began to brew. One that turned our carefully spun web of safety into an unpredictable whirlwind of complexities once more. Who was this woman? And what did she want? As fear and hope spiraled dangerously together, the world around me began to crumble once again, heralding an unforeseen revelation that could either shatter our fragile bond or lead us down an entirely new path. My heart raced as I locked eyes with the newcomer. The chaos of the room seemed to dim, and all that remained was the echo of Lily's question hanging in the air. Who was this woman, rushing in like a tempest to shake the already teetering ground beneath us? Mom. Lily's voice broke through the confusion, both vulnerable and tentative. It was as if the very fabric of our world twisted, revealing threads of uncertainty woven into the love I thought was unshakable. Let her go. The woman's voice cracked like thunder, laden with desperation as she pushed past the officers. You have no right, do you hear me? Her tone dripped with a protective fury that felt both familiar and terrifying. I glanced at Jonathan, his mouth agape, his certainty now dissolving into disbelief. The reality of the moment felt warped beyond recognition. The solidity of our plan eroded in the wake of her arrival. Who are you? One officer challenged, steadying himself against the sudden surge of emotion that ricocheted around the room. I could hardly breathe as I turned to Lily, who watched the scene unfold with wide eyes. Caught in the eye of a storm she couldn't comprehend. Mommy's here, sweetie. Just hold on. My words tumbled out as instinct drove me to protect her again. My primal urge to keep her safe sparked to life. The woman turned her gaze toward me, a mixture of recognition and resolve swirling in her expression. You think you can call yourself her mother? Her eyes pierced into me, challenging and confrontational. I felt a rush of indignation swell within me, battling against the crumbling pillars of composure I had been working tirelessly to maintain. I'm not trying to take anything from you. I swear. We're just trying to keep Lily safe. The tension in the room shifted, morphing into a thick haze of emotions, each one raw and pulsating. The officers glanced at each other, clearly unsure how to handle this sudden upheaval. The CEO leaned back against the wall, amusement playing around the corners of his mouth as though he was merely an observer to this chaotic symphony. Take her? The woman shot back bitterly. You don't understand, she is my daughter, and I won't let you tear her away from me. Teetering on the brink of collapse under the weight of her revelation, the world seemed to blur as the room filled with echoes of Lily's laughter and the warmth of bedtime stories, shared moments that painted me as the mother in her life. The agony of wanting to protect her collided with the intensity of this woman's agony, an emotional maelstrom I had never prepared to navigate. Mommy, who is she? Lily's voice, soft and inquisitive, cut through the tension. The child's innocence wrapped around us like a delicate thread, seeking to bind all the broken pieces together. Lily, honey, let me handle this. I tried to sound steady, but the quiver in my voice betrayed me. This is your mother. The admission clawed at my throat, unspooled my heart line by line. For a moment, everything fell silent. The officers exchanged glances, their expressions revealing a mixture of sympathy and confusion. The CEO's delighted smile had vanished, replaced by a calculating glimmer of interest, as though he was weighing the possibilities that lay before him. With a shake of her head, the woman stepped closer, her eyes glistening as they locked on Lily. I've been searching for you, darling. I would never leave you if it weren't for Mommy. I was scared, Lily murmured, clutching her teddy bear, torn between instinctual trust and uncertainty. I know, sweet girl, I know, the woman said, her voice softening. But I'm here now. Everything will be all right if we can just get you away from here. The panic was palpable, wrapped tightly around my heart. You can't just take her. I protested, desperation spiking through my veins. She's been through enough. We've all been through enough. This is not just your fight. You don't understand. The woman stepped back, tears brimming in her eyes as the weight of her own turmoil threatened to overflow. I lost everything to keep her safe. But now she needs to know the truth. How do you even know what that truth is? You abandoned her. The accusation slipped from my lips like poison, carrying a heaviness that hung between us, trembling in the air. Don't you dare, she retorted, the fierceness of her emotion reflected back at me with equal intensity. You think you know? You think just because you've played house, you can come in and pretend her life is yours. Jonathan interjected, this isn't going to help anyone. We need to focus on keeping her safe. Can every one of us agree on that? As tensions mounted and words became daggers, I felt Lily's small hand slip into mine. The soft warmth radiated through me, reminding me of all the joy that existed in this complicated mess we called family. How could love entangle itself in so much strife, yet still ripple through the channels of our hopes? The officers began to murmur amongst themselves, some grimacing at the conflict while others tried to manage their roles diligently amidst the escalating emotions. As I leaned closer to Lily, determined to keep her safe, the day's events began to shift in tone like distant thunder rumbling before a looming storm. Mommy, I want to stay with you, Lily whispered, her words both a plea and a declaration to tea that moment. The world outside the chaos settled into an eerie stillness, and plans swirled in my mind, each one edged with uncertainty and the heartache of what could lie ahead. As the murmurs around us intensified and time twisted endlessly in that space, I felt an unmistakable shift, a revelation lingering just out of reach, like the fraying threads of patience woven into a tapestry destined to unravel. Though summoned by the clamor, another voice intertwined with our volatile conversation, a voice I recognized, belonging to someone I had expected never to see again. And just what do you think you're doing here? A familiar figure stepped into view, and, in an instant, all the layers of conflict spiraled toward a chilling climax. I gasped, caught between disbelief and an overwhelming wave of dread, as the truth I couldn't fathom crashed down upon me, irrevocably altering the trajectory of our fractured world once more. The tension in the air cracked like static electricity, each heartbeat resounding through the fragile web we had all woven around ourselves. As I stood there, consumed by the chaos and uncertainty surrounding Lily, everything shifted. A familiar silhouette emerged from the shadows, sending chills racing down my spine. It was her mother, but it was also someone I recognized, someone from my past I had thought was lost to the shadows forever. Sarah? I blurted out, my voice barely holding on to clarity in the whirlwind of emotions. Questions spiraled, crashing against one another like waves in a storm. What was she doing here? Why now? My heart hammered against my ribcage as the reality of the moment washed over me. Sarah had been a ghost, a name that slipped in and out of memories like a forgotten melody, a distant echo lingering in the corners of my mind. Dio, not the woman who had claimed to be Lily's mother, interjected, her tone dripping with trepidation. Do not let her manipulate you, Lily. Trust me. The urgency in her voice sparked a new flame of uncertainty, battering my heart. I am your mother. I've come to protect you. Lily's wide eyes darted between the two women, her small hands trembling as they clutched her teddy bear tighter. Mommy? She breathed, her trust inherently innocent but inherently conflicted. It tugged painfully at my heart, wrenching within me all the fears I'd desperately tried to keep at bay. What were the truths looming over our heads? What lay beneath the surface of these tangled identities? Stop. All of you. Jonathan's voice cut through the brewing storm, his arms outstretched as if to shield Lily from the mounting chaos. The sirens outside echoed through the park, an impending arrival, both law and order closing in. But amid it all, we remained caught in the eye of an emotional cyclone. I came for you, sweet girl, Sarah continued, her gaze locked on Lily, the desperation framing her face palpable. When I lost you, I lost everything. I vowed I would find you and make it right. The CEO's laughter sliced through the intensity. This is quite the family reunion, isn't it? But let's be real, a mother lost, and a father chasing shadows. You think you're here to reclaim your daughter? But you're merely pieces on the chessboard, playthings in a game much bigger than you can imagine. His taunts sent ripples of dread through me, the realization hitting hard that our battles reached across celestial spheres, echoing in grander designs than we could fathom. But in my heart, I also felt a flicker of something else, a spark of that fiercely protective spirit rising within me. Leave her alone. I shouted, my voice firm and grounded. She is not your pawn. You have no power here. The words reverberated through me, igniting a flame of courage that I hadn't realized had flickered to life. The officers seemed caught between the rising tide of emotions, uncertainty shadowing their faces. We need everyone to remain calm, one said gently, attempting to diffuse the situation even as the air thickened with tension. We're here to make sure the child is safe. But we need clarity what is happening. I know this all looks chaotic. Jonathan stepped forward, eyes blazing. But we're all aiming for the same thing, to keep Lily safe. To find a way through this, another officer nodded, recognizing the urgency amid the turmoil. Then perhaps we could begin with the truth. In that moment, it felt as if time paused. Truth hung thick in the air, as tangible as a tempest swirling just beneath the surfaceous storm waiting to erupt. The thoughts collided within me, wrestling with the fear of what could be laid bare. Sarah hesitated, glancing over her shoulder at the CEO, who appeared to savor the unfolding drama. I regret what happened in the past, but I've been searching for Lily since I lost her. I could never leave her. Not willingly. The truth hung between us, a rope of possibility, swaying precariously. What was lost in the darkness might yet find its way to the light. Is that so? Asked the CEO, feigning interest as he leaned forward, the light landing across his face in stark contrasts. What if I told you that perhaps you're both underestimating the danger in this scenario? The words took flight, warnings intermingling with fears I had buried deep. Lily is more than just a child caught in a family feud. She is a bridge between worlds filled with shadows and light, he said, his sinister voice dripping with foreboding. What I know would shock you all. The officer began to raise their hands. This is unproductive, one insisted, glancing at his superior. We need to assess the situation calmly. I demand to hear the truth. Now, Jonathan interrupted, his voice rising with passion. Yes, I echoed, my heart pounding. Lily deserves that much. If anybody has secrets, let's bring them into the open. With a sudden intensity, Sarah stepped forward, gripping Lily's arms gently but firmly. What I kept hidden was an uncertainty about Lily's safety, sworn to protecting her when shadows began to fall around us all, she said. This man, she pointed at the CEO, threatened to take everything we had. I didn't run. I was fighting my way back to her, desperate to save her from his web of lies. Lily fixated on the exchange, her eyes wide, processing the pieces unraveling around her. Mommy, I'm scared, she whimpered, tears gleaming beneath the weight of conflict. Innocence and fear eclipsed by the surge of adult emotions swirling around her. I dropped to my knees before her, cupping her cheeks gently. Sweet girl, we're going to get through this together, I murmured, wondering how much of this she truly understood. The CEO chuckled softly, a cruel sound that echoed around us. Together? You think that bonds forged in lies can withstand the storms of turmoil? You're riding on the coattails of a broken past. But then, like flickering candlelight piercing the blackness, a truth emerged, a tether that wrapped around my heart. It doesn't matter how fractured the past is, it can still inform our future, I said, my voice steadying with resolve. We're fighting for dreams, for hope, for family. And that's worth every challenge. The air grew thick with a determination bound tightly around us, hearts connecting more deeply than all the snaking shadows. I looked around, taking in the faces around me, the fear mingling with resolve. If any of us is going to create a future for Lily, we need to embrace the whole truth together, Jonathan agreed, stepping resolutely beside me, a united facade against the darkness looming. His expression was blazing with newfound determination, a shield against the shadows they threatened to overwhelm us. What do you say, then? I asked, my gaze drifting to the officers, pleading with them to guide us. It felt as if we stood at a precipice, ready to plunge into the depths of the unknown together. Let's reveal what needs to be revealed, the officer replied, his tone resolute, mirroring our unity in the face of calamity. We are all bound by the pursuit of what's true, and in that moment of vulnerability, hope burgeoned within the echoing silence. The sudden warmth surged as we grasped the flickers of that shared light, drawing us nearer to one another, binding our stories into a far stronger protagonist. A family we could yet build anew. I knelt beside Lily, my heart swelling within the rising energy, as I clutched her small hands firmly inside mine. Whatever happens, we will do this as a family, I promised, feeling her squeeze back tightly, a tiny tether connecting us through the stresses and uncertainties of the arcane memories lurking around us. The ceaseless storm of shadows claimed the fringes of our gathering. It brought the chance to expose what had been hidden away in explosive interplay of realities colliding, swirling into a narrative we built together, sometimes stitched together through heartache. The next move would be ours, and with hope kindling deep within us, I dared to hope that love's warmth could banish the shadows once and for all that in that charged moment. Everything hung precariously on the horizon of a new dawn, and as the flickering promise of hope twinkled amidst the cruel night, I whispered to Lily, "You didn't just ask if I could be your new daddy, you helped remind me that we define our futures, not our pasts." The ceaseless light began to illuminate the darkness, waiting at the gates of our hearts as the looming shadows threatened to slip away for good. And as if on cue, the sirens softened into the background, promising the light of a new dawn on the horizon, one filled with memories yet to create a chance to rewrite the story of our lives.